She smelled like diesel and late shifts, a tired human who could have vanished into the station crowd. Except 6 predator cubs rearranged their world around her. They left training mid-session, stole her bag, and guarded her like she'd been born alpha. What started as a handful of shared sandwiches became a scandal that cracked a military's assumptions and rewrote how an entire species thought about raising its young. Something small and human changed everything, and no one quite knew why. If you love HFY stories where humans quietly upend alien expectations, hit like and subscribe. We've got more tales like this every week. Share this video with someone who loves weird, warm sci-fi moments and drop a comment. Would you accept a pack of aliens following you home? The spaceport of Varan 9 was never quiet. It hummed with voices, hundreds of species, hundreds of scents. But that day, the noise paused. Lieutenant Gina Park was just a guide. At least that's how she saw herself. She had been assigned to lead alien cadets through the human sectors of the Orbital Academy, a routine cultural exchange. But she looked exhausted. Her uniform sleeves were rolled up, her hair a little out of place, and dark circles framed her eyes. To the humans on the station, it was just another long shift. To the cubs watching her, it was something else entirely. 6 Vexa cubs, reptilian, sharp-eyed, and born to a warrior race, were meant to observe discipline drills that morning. Instead, they found themselves watching Gina move through the crowd. She wasn't commanding. She wasn't glowing with power. She was steady, calm. Every motion said, "We're safe." It began when her bag slipped from her shoulder. Without a word, one cub darted forward to catch it. Another hissed at him, then grabbed the other strap. Within seconds, the 6 were fighting, claws clashing, tails whipping, not to steal the bag, but to carry it. The crowd stared. The instructor froze. Gina blinked, confused. Hey, easy kids. It's just a bag." But to them, it wasn't just a bag. In Vexa culture, carrying another's burden meant submission, devotion, pack loyalty. And these cubs were fighting to prove who belonged to her first. Security rushed in, but Gina knelt, resting her hand lightly on the smallest cub's head. "No fighting," she said softly. "We can share, okay?" That tone, that warmth, something ancient and deep shifted in their biology. The cubs froze, pupils dilating. In one synchronized motion, they lowered their heads and whined, the sound of obedience. A Vexa instructor whispered, horrified, "They've imprinted." Gina, clueless, gave a small, tired smile. "Guess I made some new friends, huh?" Nobody answered. Around her, the station's watchers, soldiers, scientists, diplomats, realized what they'd just seen. A human, without trying, had done the impossible, and none of them were ready for what came next.
The incident spread across the academy like fire through oxygen lines. Every cadet, every officer, every curious researcher wanted to know, how did a single human make 6 predator cubs break their training and submit? Gina Park had no idea she was the center of an investigation. She just did what came naturally. She fed them. During her next shift, she returned to the observation wing carrying her usual lunch, 2 sandwiches, a thermos of coffee, and a few ration bars. She found the cubs waiting for her. Not ordered, not restrained, just waiting. "All right, fine," she sighed. "You look hungry, too." She tore one sandwich into 6 uneven pieces and handed them out like she would have stray dogs back on Earth. The cubs didn't snarl or fight this time. They waited their turn. And when they bit into the bread, simple human bread, they made a strange, low, rumbling sound. Later, xenobiologists would call contentment purring. But in the Vexa language, that sound had a different meaning. Submission under trust. Across the glass wall, a group of officers stared, horrified and fascinated. Commander Trajan muttered, "We've spent decades conditioning loyalty through fear, hierarchy, and scent markers." And she used carbohydrates. A xenopsychologist recorded quietly. No scent dominance, no pheromone manipulation, only tone and shared nourishment. Gina, oblivious, smiled as one cub leaned against her leg. "You guys are really just big kittens, huh?" One of the younger researchers whispered. "Do you think she knows she's creating sigils?" Sigils. In Vexa bonding culture, sharing food creates a symbolic mark, a pack signature. They're imprinting her into their neural identity map. The commander hissed, "Then stop her." But no one moved, because stopping her felt wrong. The cubs' posture was peaceful, their eyes bright. It wasn't chaos, it was calm. In less than 2 hours, Gina Park had done something no xenobiologist, no behavioral specialist, no general had ever achieved. She'd turned 6 aggressive cubs into a cohesive, cooperative group. And all it took was kindness, a sandwich, and a kind of patience humanity didn't think was special at all to be why the next rotation. The Vera 9 command deck had turned into a battlefield of opinions. One side, the brass and behavioral officers, demanded immediate separation of the cubs. The other, scientists and xenopsychologists, begged for time to study this human anomaly. Between them all, Gina Park sat in the corner of the conference room, clutching her coffee like a shield. "I didn't do anything," she said for the 3rd time. "They just like being around me." Commander Trajan slammed a clawed hand onto the table. "They obey you, human. That is not friendship. It is a dangerous neural link. If your species can induce it, it must be regulated." Gina blinked, half amused, half alarmed. "Regulated? You think I planned this? I was just trying to stop a fight." The xenopsychologist beside her, Dr. Vreeland, interjected softly. "Commander, with respect, this might be an evolutionary outlier. Their bond reaction could reveal something about cross-species empathy thresholds." The commander hissed. "Or it could reveal a weapon." That word, weapon, made the room colder. Gina finally set her cup down. "You're all thinking about what they mean for strategy or science, but you're missing something obvious." She gestured at the observation screen where the cubs played, tails flicking, eyes bright. "They're kids. They're not experiments. They're lonely." The room fell silent. No one ever called a Vexa cub lonely. They were recruits in training, future warriors, assets of the Empire. Yet here was a human, tired, overworked, out of her depth, calling them children. "Lieutenant Park," the commander growled, "you are hereby ordered to maintain minimal contact until we decide how to proceed." Gina's response was simple. "You can't decide their feelings." It was the kind of sentence that didn't belong in military language, but hit harder than any report or data sheet. When she left the room, the cubs stirred immediately, pressing their claws to the glass as she passed. Their pupils widened, following her every step. And for the first time in Vexa history, the word care carried more authority than command. The order to minimize contact lasted less than 2 days. By the 3rd morning, 3 of the 6 cubs had stopped eating. One refused a train. Another clawed open the observation door and lay there, unmoving, until Gina was called in to calm them. The medical team scanned their vitals. No illness, no injury, just withdrawal. When Gina entered the room, they rose instantly, tails curling in relief. The smallest one, whom she'd nicknamed Button, pressed his head into her knee and made a low, broken sound. She crouched. "Hey, I'm here. You're okay." Across the observation deck, scientists watched in stunned silence as stress hormone readings dropped in real time. Within minutes, all 6 cubs were alert again, playful even. Commander Trajan watched, jaw tightening. "So, you're their handler now." Gina shook her head. "Not handler, just example." From that moment, things shifted. The human was no longer a subject of study. She became an instructor. Each day, she introduced small lessons, cooperation games, shared meal rituals, calm breathing exercises she'd learned from her grandmother. Instead of dominance challenges, she taught them trust games. Instead of physical punishments, she taught consequence and empathy. And to everyone's shock, the cubs excelled. Their coordination rose 60%. Their aggression fell below measurable levels. One day, a junior officer asked, "Lieutenant, how do you get them to follow command so fast?" Gina smiled faintly. "I don't command. I show." That line spread through the station like a proverb. I show, simple, human, effective. Within weeks, even veteran trainers began observing her methods. They noticed that when she led by example, cleaning their quarters herself, sharing food, showing patience, the cubs didn't just mimic, they internalized. It wasn't control, it was connection. Late one night, Gina wrote in her log, "They don't need us to lead them with fear. They just need someone to show what strength looks like when it's gentle." Outside the observation window, 6 small shapes slept in a circle, tails intertwined, heads resting near her boots. A strange new kind of leadership had begun, one no manual had ever prepared them for. By the end of the quarter, the park protocol wasn't just a rumor, it was a research directive. What started as 1 human and 6 cubs had turned into an interspecies behavioral revolution. Other humans were quietly brought in, teachers, medics, even janitors with patient hearts and steady voices. Each was paired with a group of young Vexa. The results were unpredictable. Some pairs clicked instantly, others failed. Some cubs bonded fiercely, while others resisted, confused by affection they didn't know how to process. Still, something undeniable was happening. Dr. Vrelin called it soft dominance. Commander Trajan called it unacceptable but effective. Gina just called it parenting. And every day more reports came in. Aggression rates down 72%. Team performance up 50%. Mutual injuries nearly 0. But as success grew, so did the political storm. Are we rewriting their instincts? Critics asked. Is this manipulation? Others argued. The Vexa High Council accused the human fleet of cultural contamination. Gina sat through endless hearings, always saying the same thing. We didn't teach them to be human. We taught them to be kind. One counselor snapped, "Kindness weakens warriors." She looked him straight in the eye. So does loneliness. The broadcast of that line went viral across 5 systems. Soon, alien parents started reaching out, not for research, but for help. How do you make them listen without fear? How do you calm a cub that won't stop fighting? Gina began training Vexa caretakers herself. She didn't give lectures. She told stories about her own childhood, her mother's patience, her first dog that bit her and still learned to trust. The aliens didn't fully understand her metaphors, but they felt her meaning. Even the hardest commanders began to notice. The cubs trained under park-style empathy performed better in battle simulations, not worse. They were calmer, smarter, more coordinated. It wasn't softness. It was strength with purpose. And for the first time in their long, brutal history, the Vexa began asking themselves a question no one had dared before. What if compassion was a weapon too? Months passed. The experiment that began with 1 tired human and 6 stubborn cubs became something far greater, a quiet revolution that no one had planned for. By the time the Vera 9 summit convened, the entire sector knew Gina Park's name, not as a soldier, not as a scientist, but as the woman who taught predators how to care. The cubs she once fed with broken sandwiches were now fully trained cadets. Stronger, smarter, but most of all, balanced. They still fought like Vexa, fierce and fearless. But now, they fought for each other, not against. Their teamwork was so seamless that their final training evaluation had to be rewritten. The examiner simply wrote, "Behavior, cooperative unity beyond expected instinct." Gina stood at the back of the hall that day, still in her old uniform, still holding her dented thermos. She didn't make a speech. She didn't need to. The cubs, now graduates, saluted her silently. 6 tails raised in perfect symmetry. That single motion rippled across every spectator's chest like a heartbeat. Commander Trajan approached her afterward. His tone was softer now. "You know, Lieutenant, when this started, I thought you were dangerous." She smiled faintly. "I still might be." He chuckled, a sound rare among his kind. "Perhaps, but I think the danger was never you. It was the idea that something so small could change everything." In the months that followed, the park doctrine became part of military training manuals across 3 alliances, not as propaganda, but as a principle. Lead by empathy. strength through care. And somewhere on a far-off colony, 6 former cubs, now instructors themselves, told wide-eyed trainees a story that began with a human who looked tired and never gave up. Because sometimes the strongest revolutions don't roar. They whisper. They feed the hungry. They rest when they're exhausted and still show up the next day. And somewhere in the stars, the galaxy began to remember what humanity had always known. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the oldest, sharpest power we have. And that, my friends, was the human looked tired. The cubs fought over who got to carry her bag. If this story moved you, even just a little, make sure to subscribe, and share it with someone who believes compassion can change worlds. Tell me in the comments, Thought Balloon, would you carry her bag, or would you just walk beside her? Because in this galaxy, maybe that's what being human really means. Milky Way,